This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
It's the day that we have all been waiting for in this country. We've been waiting months and months for this day to hit. And of course, I'm talking about the NFL trading deadline. That's right. We'll get to that along with the Patriots stuff as well from that Titans game. First, I remind you, Prize Picks. Check out that app. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly. Also, check out our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account. Use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. I will have one eye devoted to Twitter because we are recording this on Tuesday afternoon, just before 12:30, before Greg gets to go have some fun for a couple of hours with Felger and Maz. So if something breaks, I'll be all over it. But let's start here, Greg. Jordan Schultz is reporting that teams are interested in KJ Osborn, multiple teams. Your guy, Mike Giardi, with Boston Sports Journal, says that the LA Chargers is one of those teams. Could you see a move happen? What should we expect with Osborn as far as a return? Do you think he's gone, and what could they get back?
Yeah, I think he's gone. If I had to wager on the Patriot most likely to be on the way out, it would be KJ Osborn and, not much, somewhere around a 6th or 7th, some sort of maybe they can get a conditional. But I think at this point, they're just ready to give him away and move on and go on with the youth movement.
A trade that was made earlier today had to do with Dallas, and they dealt a 4th-round pick to Carolina for Jonathan Mingo and a 7th-round pick. Now, a couple of interesting things I want to get to about this trade, but first and foremost, I saw you tweet this today. Mike Lombardi had mentioned the Cowboys and Tyquan Thornton. So did the Patriots just lose out on an opportunity to deal Thornton out of town?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you view it. I mean, I still think internally, I still think they feel that Tyquan has some value and some upside. And, obviously they made him a 2nd-round pick just, 2 years ago. And some of the people that made that selection or were involved in it, like Elliott Wolf and Matt Groh and Cam Williams, they're all still there. And you don't really, give up on a guy. What year is he in? Is it 3 or 2? He's in his 3rd year.
Or is it
Okay.
3? I'll look it up.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I think that's a situation. So you said the compensation was a 4th?
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. You would think that I think it just came down to the Patriots probably drove a harder bargain, that they wanted a higher pick for a 2nd-round pick. And yeah, that's probably the way it came out.
By the way, Mingo was the 39th pick in the 2023 draft. So this is year 2 for him with the Panthers. And let's not forget, you could look at that and say, man, is that a massive overpay for a guy who hasn't done much in his career? He had a brutal, if you look at analytics, he had a brutal rookie season a year ago, but he was playing with Bryce Young. That entire operation in Carolina was brutal. And let's not forget, he's only in his 2nd year. So contract matters. If you're trying to deal a guy who's a rental versus a guy who still has contract term, that changes some things. Now, the Patriots did make a move, Greg, today, according to Mike Reese. They have signed practice squad player, offensive lineman Tyrese Robinson, and he's a right guard. He's played some right guard. He's played some right tackle. He's been on practice squads the last couple of years. I bring that up not to break down Tyrese Robinson, but I bring it up because the Patriots signed somebody off the practice squad, which means somebody on their 53 has to go. Somebody that's on the roster right now has to go, which makes me wonder, do they already have a trade in the pipeline? And that's how they open up the spot for Tyrese Robinson.
Probably. I would assume that I'm sorry, I'm just looking at the depth chart. I just want to call up the depth chart just to see, well, I mean, they got Letitia Smith off of Green Bay's practice squad. Trying to see who else who would be. Yeah, I would going to be something along the lines of they know they're dealing somebody at some point, and so that's the way it'll go down.
If they don't deal Osborn, if they don't deal Thornton, do they release one of those guys and just cut their losses?
Yeah, and it would probably be KJ Osborn. I think that it just hasn't worked out. There's a lot of reasons for that, and there's a lot of reasons for I see a lot of chatter on Twitter about, look where Jalen Polk ranks in terms of this and that. And like, we'll get into it more when we talk about the state of this offense and Alex Van Pelt. But yeah, I have a feeling that they would just move on from KJ Osborn.
All right, let's get into the Titans game, and let's start with the Patriots defense against that Titans offense. Then we'll move to Alex Van Pelt and Drake Maye and the Pats offense. But the defense, what did you see on Sunday? Was it a step back for DeMarcus Covington and company?
Yeah, yes, but I want to start with this, and we might as well group in the offense into this because it's all related. My big takeaway from this game was, if Jerod Mayo or whoever decides to move on from Alex Van Pelt after this season, this is one of those games where his shortcomings sort of stuck out like a sore thumb, not only in terms of what the Patriots weren't able to do on offense, but also the contrast to what the Titans were doing. And let's point out that, the Titans have better personnel. They have more talent. Yes, they had Mason Rudolph at quarterback. I understand that.
Right.
They lost their center, Lloyd Cushenberry. They were already without their right guard, going into this game. But they do have, top 10 picks at left tackle and left guard. The right tackle's garbage, and they sort of rotated those guys. But I think when I watched the tape of this game, some of it was self-inflicted stuff. It went back to sort of, guys being out of position, not getting off blocks, guys going up the field, exposing run gaps and stuff like that. But I do think a lot of it had to do with Brian Callahan's scheme. I mean, there was a lot of motion, a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of, different alignments. And I think it threw the Patriots for a loop. I mean, Nick, again, I look at this game as just another example of the Patriots just being outcoached in two phases. I mean, the Titans special teams are a freaking disaster. And Brian Callahan can't coach his way out of a paper bag as far as a head coach. I mean, but at least he has the built-in excuse of it's his offense. He's calling the plays. He's a little distracted, with all that stuff. Jerod Mayo does not have that excuse. Jerod Mayo doesn't do anything. He has coordinators, and I mean, the Titans' decision to kick in the middle of the field line drives twice to Marcus Jones were just egregious. And if the Titans played well, if they managed the game somewhat well, they win this game going away. It's not even close at the end. They largely dominated this game from start to finish. You had the ridiculous goal line situation where they get to what was it, 2nd and 3, and they throw twice and they get picked off instead of just being conservative and just saying, like, look at this other team, they can't do anything, let's go up 10 points, see how they do down 2 scores. And then there was the fumbled snap in overtime when they were about to walk in for a touchdown, and there were drops from Calvin Ridley, and there were all sorts of issues, and there's special team issues. But the Titans should have won this game going away. And the only reason that it was closer is because of their own ineptitude. But back to the Patriots defense, say what you want about Brian Callahan. He's got a really good scheme. And to me, it didn't look like the Patriots were all that prepared for it. They were caught sort of half a step late all the time. Some of their coverages were bad. To me, it was just more of the same that we've seen out of this defense this season.
All right, before we get to Jerod Mayo and the Patriots offense, let's have Greg tell you about Prize Picks.
Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right. Jerod Mayo. I'm frustrated, Greg. I'm trying to be patient and fair and understand there's a learning curve. But 2 things on Sunday drove me mother-loving crazy. Mm-hmm. Let's start with the idea before the game that you had an offensive line that was finally finding some continuity, was finally playing better, at least in pass protection, and you were going against a team in Tennessee that had Jeffrey Simmons as their best defensive player. The last time I checked, you can correct me on this, but Jeffrey Simmons is an interior defensive lineman. And the Patriots decide, in their great wisdom, Greg, before this game, to push Mike Onwenu back out to right tackle. What in the bleep was that about?
Yeah, and this isn't even a hindsight second guess type of thing.
No.
When I heard what they were doing in warmups, I was like, I do not agree with this. And this was, this goes along with Alex Van Pelt, and it also goes along with Jerod Mayo because he is the head coach. He dictates everything, or should. The decision to this is the way most teams operate. This is the way Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels would have operated. How many times have we seen the Patriots over the years go up against a team with like one really good guy up front, especially on the interior? I mean, that makes it even easier. Like JJ Watt. How many times did the Patriots play JJ Watt and he never did squat? Now, you could say the Patriots had better personnel and stuff like that. Oh, okay. I mean, there were also times that the Patriots went out there and had guys like Brian Stork and Ryan Wendell and Dan Conley and Trey Jackson and, all sorts of guys, going through injuries and things like that. That's not to say like Wendy and Conley weren't good players. They were, but not hugely talented players and what have you. But I can guarantee you, if Bill Belichick was here and they were game planning for this, he would have told Josh, we are not letting number 98 do anything. Everything we do on offense revolves around eliminating him. Make the other guys make plays. That's fine. We are not letting him beat us. And for them to make the decision to insert Layden Robinson, who I like, okay, and he played really well early. Then he started to slump. Then he got hurt. He hasn't played a whole lot. The decision to say, I wish I was a fly on the wall for that meeting, if they even had one, where they're like, should we move the guy who we're paying $19 million to and an offensive line where we're whining about how we haven't had continuity all year? We finally get a chance to roll out the same offensive line 3 times. And we know what we have. We know what we don't have. We got to help the edges, what have you. But, should we go with the rookie against Jeffrey Simmons or the $19 million guy? And not only that, Nick, like I can understand, okay, let's just say they had their reasons for doing that. Okay, which I don't agree with. Well, let's just say they did. To pair that with not having a plan against Jeffrey Simmons, I mean, I can't tell you how many times in the first half it was one-on-one. Layden Robinson, one-on-one. They're running one-on-one. No double team on Jeffrey Simmons. No running away. No wham. No nothing. It was just, it was mind-boggling. It was mind-numbing. And to me, it just led me to think like, what the hell is Alex Van Pelt doing? And what the hell is Jerod Mayo allowing him to do? I mean, that decision, changing the personnel on the offensive line and then not having a plan for Jeffrey Simmons, to me, doomed this game from the Patriots for the start.
Egregious, ridiculous decision. Makes absolutely no sense. You are correct in saying this is not hindsight 2020. Everybody in real time wondered what the hell was going on. It made no sense specifically with this matchup. It goes into the long line of defensive playmakers that Alex Van Pelt goes into on Sunday and says to himself, we don't really have to pay extra attention to that guy. They did it with Nick Bosa. Bosa killed him. They did it with Trey Hendrickson. Hendrickson was somewhat of a problem. They did it with Will Anderson against Houston in Houston, and Will Anderson was a big-time problem. It's part of the reason why the strip sack happened and Vedarian Lowe got hurt. And then you go into this game and you don't pay attention to Jeffrey Simmons. I'm not asking for a lot. This is basic football stuff. Mm-hmm. This is most people who watch the game, most people who pay attention to other teams would tell you that Jeffrey Simmons is a killer. The dude is a certified freaking monster. And I'm talking about him on my podcast on Friday, previewing the game and saying Jeffrey Simmons is a problem. He's like one of the best run stuffers in football. He's one of the best pass rushers from the interior in football. You got to make sure you got this thing figured out. Michael Wenu, Ben Brown have to do a good job. And to think that you're putting Layden Robinson out there, but that's not all, Greg. Because if you thought that decision was bad, I don't know if the other decision was worse, but let's get to overtime. Mm-hmm. And Drake Maye is talking to the media after the game, and he mentions that he threw into the wind. And everybody listening to that said, wait a minute. They lost a coin toss. If you lost the coin toss, you get to choose which direction you want to go, which direction you want to kick into. And if Drake Maye was right in his assessment, that means the Patriots chose in overtime to drive into the wind. Mm-hmm. And Jerod Mayo was asked, and I thought he made it even worse. When his answer, Greg, was so stunningly ridiculous, he said that the wind changed. That was his answer as to why they played into the wind in overtime. He said the wind changed from the beginning of the game to overtime to the end of the game. And I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure if the Patriots coaching staff understands, Greg, that weather changes throughout the day. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Take it over before I swear and lose my mind.
Well, I mean, and then we could sort of group this into, also the 2-point discussion, which I don't have a problem either way, whatever. I wasn't thinking about the 2-point conversion because the Patriots were basically in a scramble drill with no timeouts, and Drake Maye had just run around for 12 seconds and pulled a play out of his rear end to get you in position to go to overtime. But for Jerod Mayo not to have an answer on why he didn't do it, not only after the game, but then the day after the game, we knew with Bill Belichick, we knew what we would get as far as an answer. But Jerod Mayo is the guy who's preached transparency and, going to share information and all that stuff. And then he's just like, I don't want to get into it. Why don't you want to get into it? You're the head coach. You made the decision. You have to have a reason why you made your decision. Just state your reason. But then, the wind thing, I mean, he kicked into the wind. The 56-yard field goal, from all accounts, was into the wind. I think I don't know if it was the same direction or not, but he kicks a 56-yarder in the first quarter, and that doesn't work out. And then he gets the wind wrong in overtime. I mean, it's just Nick, I really am. I'm sick of talking about the coaching. I really,
me too.
Would rather not. But I mean, I have to. It's right there, week after week after week. It's right there for all to see, and it's just they're not. I feel bad for the players because they're just not being put in a position to succeed. And that was just another example on Sunday.
Yeah, the clock management at the end of the half. How many times have we seen this? How many times? And Jerod Mayo has said, I'm not a repeat offender. You keep making the same mistakes. They come out and they're aggressive at the end of the half. They start throwing the football. They're completing passes. They're moving the football down the field. Now, I did not have a problem with the 2nd and 1 run. I thought it was actually a pretty good call given the situation and the fact that the Patriots had some timeouts. So I don't mind the 2nd and 1 run. But then 3rd and 1, everybody in the stadium knows you're going to run the football. You haven't been able to run the football all first half long. You run into a brick wall. And to make matters worse, you didn't call a timeout after the 2nd down play when you ran, which would have saved you time. So in case if you got the 1st down on 3rd and 1, you would have had more time to work with. I mean, this is just, this shit is stuff that I know when I play Madden, for the love of God. I mean, this ain't tough. And I don't know. But let's continue with AVP, because I've heard this conversation. I haven't been able to talk about this on my pod. I haven't talked about it with you. So Van Pelt comes out and says, we're not going to call designed runs for Drake Maye. And some people in the media loved the quote. Other people in the media hated the quote. I hated the quote. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. Number one, for the people who are like, oh, if you call designed runs, you're going to put Drake Maye in the crosshairs. What's more dangerous? Drake Maye scrambling around when chaos is happening, or a designed run where he knows where the hell he's going, has blockers in front of him, and has full control of the situation? Number two, Greg, I don't know. If I have a quarterback who one of his most lethal weapons, as we've seen, is his legs, if I'm the offensive coordinator, I might take advantage of that to drive the defense crazy. And third, before I kick it to you, is, hey, Alex, your run game sucks. So maybe you want to sprinkle in some different things with the quarterback to maybe get your run game going. Greg?
Yeah, and this is all related to, going back to my main takeaway is, like, I think, Alex Van Pelt is getting more and more exposed by the week. I think that actually Drake Maye playing, and, I brought this up in my column after the game where I sort of had rambling thoughts about, like, because it doesn't compute for me, Nick, and I don't know if it does for you, that look, Drake Maye is making more plays. Okay. They're getting bigger plays. They're getting better overall play out of the quarterback position with Drake Maye, yet the results are worse. They just are. I mean, Jacoby Brissett won them 2 games and had them on the verge of 2 victories. Drake Maye's 0-3 as far as, games that he finished. And look, the Texans game was the Texans game, what have you. But, the Jaguars with a 10-0 lead, they lose going away. And then, the Tennessee Titans, they lose to, Mason Rudolph, which was, very similar to the Dolphins game. Of course, I think all of it, goes back to coaching. But back to Alex Van Pelt. When I heard that quote, and I watch what transpires on the field, and I watch other teams like Washington with Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury, how they incorporate what Jaden Daniels does and the impact that has on the rest of the offense. Alex Van Pelt looks like a caveman Neanderthal, clinging to what he believes in, where, designed runs, like I've seen, quarterbacks get hurt. Like, what game are you watching? Your quarterback's running all over Tarnation. His helmet's almost flying off. Was quote unquote concussed, even though I don't think he was really concussed. Last game. And first of all, you're declaring to every other team, like, oh, well, this guy really runs, but we don't need to worry about him in the run game. I mean, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. At least if you're not going to do it, at least talk it up. So they're like, oh, now we got to prepare. What people, and I'm sure we have a lot of smart listeners to this podcast. You have no idea when you have an athletic quarterback and you incorporate him into the run game and do different things schematically, just the, simple RPOs, the amount of space that opens up in both the run and if you have to account for the quarterback, it adds an extra gap to the run defense. So somebody has to be in that gap to account for it, let alone if the quarterback is a threat with his legs and they're doing RPOs and things like that. you have to play more conservative on defense, because if you're in man-to-man, you're going to expose gaps. And it also, since everybody complains about how the Patriots receivers suck and they're not open, I contend to you, Alex Van Pelt's scheme sucks and can't get anybody open. But if you have a running quarterback, somebody who, has to fake and the defense has to hold, and then all of a sudden, guess what? All this space opens up for your while they're waiting for the ball to figure out whether it's a run or a pass. Your receiver's already going down the field and getting open, and it makes reads simpler for the quarterback. It makes space easier to come to for the receivers, and all of this stuff is being left on the wayside by Alex Van Pelt. Why? I don't want to hear any of this injury bullcrap. First of all, I don't even know what quarterbacks he's talking about that he's been involved in. They have designed runs. I don't think they did that with Aaron Rodgers very much in Green Bay. But it's about he's not capable of these things. He's not capable of motion. He's not capable of all these different creative things that we see, that we just saw from the Titans. Brian Callahan had shit going on all over the place, and it contributed to the Patriots not being able to get off the field on defense. Yet you look at the Patriots, and it's like Drake Maye's out there with having to throw rocks with what he has as far as scheme. It's not just personnel, it's also scheme and coaching. And the Patriots are just woefully underarmed compared to what they're going up against every Sunday.
It's like the last couple of weeks, Van Pelt looked like he had improved in a couple of areas. And then on Sunday, he just falls back to what we saw, 3 weeks ago. It's just like there's no steady improvement. There's no steady improvement on either side of the football. There's no steady improvement from your head coach as far as learning from the mistakes that he has made. It's the same stuff, man. I'll use it over again. It's one of my favorites. It's Bill Murray, Groundhog's Day. We're waking up, we're rolling over, we're slapping the freaking alarm clock as we hear Sonny and Cher. I got you, babe. That's what's happening. Every Sunday, I'm rolling over, I'm slamming my alarm clock as Sonny and Cher are belting out a tune to me. And I'm getting ready to watch coaches that are completely unprepared. And people want me to assess Elliott Wolf. I'm not telling you Elliott Wolf did a great job. Certainly this roster could be more talented. But I do have to look at things like Alex Van Pelt. And what if you had somebody who was better that got Jalen Polk going early in the year and his confidence skyrocketed? And now all of a sudden you get a different Jalen Polk. Now maybe Jalen Polk just fell off a cliff and he stinks and he's never going to be good and he's a bust. But to me, it's so much more difficult to evaluate some of these players, especially the young guys, when we have so many coaching questions going on. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you assess this offense fairly when you've got an offensive coordinator who seems to be lost. And I'm telling you, like, my patience is almost done with him. And I don't know when you make the move to McAdoo, but it feels like to me it should be very, very close to happening. And I know Luke Getsy got popped this week by the Raiders. Shane Waldron's in trouble in Chicago as they get ready to play against the Patriots this weekend. But it's getting close. It's getting close. All right, before we get to Drake Maye and how he played, let Greg tell you all about our friends from Game Time.
It's NBA season. The Celtics are rolling. You got to be there in person to experience it. And if you want to be there, you got to go check out Game Time. And one of my favorite features on there, Game Time's picks, it filters out all the fluff. Really, when you click on the Game Time picks right at the top show you the best deals. So you don't have to waste time going through all this and scrolling and all this. No. They give you the best deals. And then you just click on it and you go. I also love the all-in pricing. Toggling this feature shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat. That's a must every time I buy tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
Before we get to Maye's performance, do you think that Van Pelt has actually developed Maye as much as some think, or do you think that's being a little bit overrated?
I'm glad you went here, Nick, because I was about to go here. And I'm sure you saw and I'm sure it's going to make some people upset. But I want to present to you a few different stats. Okay, since taking over in Week 6, Drake Maye leads the league in turnover-worthy play percentage at 5.7%. Okay, and of course, and he's second in turnover-worthy plays to Baker Mayfield by 1. Of course, he only played 11 snaps against the Jets. It probably would be worse if he played. Conversely, Jacoby Brissett was 11th at 3.5%. What I also want to point out is Josh Allen, who we have used that comp several times. I do think that Drake Maye is similar to Josh Allen in terms of, inexperience, play style. Different. Josh is a freaking oak tree. And Drake Maye is sort of like Josh Allen Jr., a little smaller, but the same style of play. Josh Allen was second in the league after his first 4 starts at 6.7% turnover-worthy plays. Of course, Allen didn't started week 2 and didn't have the quote-unquote development Maye did. When discussing Alex Van Pelt and his value and about this coaching staff, and of course, we know that there are a lot of people in, let's just say, in the media around here who, either they want to have extreme patience with Mayo or, have some affinity for Mayo, which I understand. One of the crutches that they're using is look at the plan that they had for Drake Maye. Look at what they did. They obviously, and that's the most important thing for this franchise. And look at what they've done. Look at the way that he's playing. And that's just an example of they made the right decision. I'm sorry, I disagree. And some of this flies in the face of what I believed about Drake Maye. And again, when discussing draft prospects, especially quarterback prospects, like there's a lot of crap that we don't know that is vital to knowing like where a player is and what he's going to do as far as interviews and being on the board and video. Like we have none of that stuff. Okay. All we see is what we see on film with Drake Maye. And yes, my opinion was it would be best for him to sit for most of his rookie season to get his footwork down, his mechanics, sort of the Patrick Mahomes plan, and set him up for year 2. So he had a really good base. That's what I believed. However, after watching Drake Maye this entire time, from OTAs to now into the season, there's no question that at a certain point in training camp, Drake Maye was struggling. He was struggling processing and all that stuff. And that lent itself to me to be like, all right, well, I assessed this right. This guy's a way off. At some point in time, that changed. Okay, right around after the joint practice with the Eagles, where they all got their asses whooped, he came out in the Eagles game and he played really well. And then that continued after that. And we heard from Mayo saying, basically from that point on, Drake Maye outperformed Jacoby Brissett. When they're talking about the starting quarterback position,
right?
So long story short, the Drake Maye that I see now on film physically, his footwork, his motion, how he takes off. He did this in practices too. I don't see a different quarterback. Okay. Now I also can't measure where he was as far as deciphering coverages and where to go with the ball and knowing, and I'm sure Alex Van Pelt has even said like, oh yeah, he's greatly improved. He wouldn't have done that week 1. We don't know that. What you have to keep in mind is that despite Drake Maye playing really well, he continued to get crap reps. He never got any first team reps during training camp and, going into the season. I maintain that if they would have, say, after the Eagles preseason game, if they would have started splitting the snaps 50-50 with Jacoby Brissett at the very least, and if they ramped him up in terms of, all right, well, now we got to get him ready quicker. We're not going on the slow plan anymore. We're going to ramp up his tutoring and covers, all the coverage, just figuring out what coverage is, all that stuff. I think that if Drake Maye, if they ramped up his progress, I think that he would be as good or better at this point starting week 1 than where he is now. Because to me, Nick, it looks to me that this is a guy who learns by doing. And the more he does it, the more he learns. He gets better every week. And so I'm sorry. Correlation, doesn't mean causation. Just because you're seeing Drake Maye being able to play right now doesn't mean he would have been able to play week 1. We don't know that. And so for people to use that as a crutch to say, well, look at the job Mayo and Van Pelt have done with Drake Maye. I'm sorry. I reject that. I think that Drake Maye would be further ahead right now if they would have ramped up his progress.
With all of that said, what were your thoughts on his performance against that defense on Sunday?
He was really good. I mean, his ending grade wasn't great for me. I would say it was good. He did have, the 3 turnovers. The first interception, he's feeling pressure, but he just can't throw the ball up like that. The strip sack fumble, I think I put the whole thing on him. On that play, if you remember, like Drake Maye's looking left, and that's where I think it was Harold Landry created the sack and the strip sack from behind. When he's looking left, Landry's starting to beat Vidarian low. Like he's got to be able to see that, sense it, and then he kind of took his time. Like you don't have 4.5 seconds to go and make plays in the NFL. And so, I put that on him. That resulted in the points. And then the last interception, to me, and I know there's a lot of people on Twitter are like, look, Kendrick Bourne fell down. First of all, we don't know that Kendrick Bourne was going to run a vertical route on that. And I didn't really see the safe. They were playing 2 deep safeties. I think the safety would have stayed on the hash marks. To me, the biggest issue on that play, because I do think he had him, and they had a similar route in the end zone where Drake Maye earlier, he got belted. And the thing is Drake made a great read that safety, it was Ben Brown who came in, or not Ben Brown, it was a guy with the last name of Brown, came in for Quandre Diggs. And he completely blew a coverage, and Drake saw it, and he let go of it. The problem was he got drilled as he threw it. If he had a little bit more time, it's a touchdown. It was almost the same type of play. Drake was he was a little late, and the ball was underthrown. If he throws it 3/4 of a second earlier and on a line, it's probably a game-winning touchdown. It was just a little late, and it hung up, and that was the issue. But I thought overall, look, he was 95% of the offense. I didn't have any problems with his scrambles. Normally I do. The week before, his touchdown run, Nick, and I don't know if we discussed this, his touchdown run, he actually had 2 guys open. And I would have rather seen him throw that ball, but, he made a play and, whatever. So it's not a negative grade for me. But this was not a case of Drake Maye looking to run before he passed. He had to run in this game. He bailed the team out. And again, I just don't think he's getting any help from the offensive coordinator whatsoever with scheme. So not only is it talent around him, but it's also the caller and the play caller. But also let's point out that the offensive line was much better once they went back to their original line. The pressure rate dropped a ton. And, he was able to make a lot more plays. The offense in the first half was garbage, and that included Drake Maye. But in the second half, they had much more opportunities because, lo and behold, they could actually block. But overall, I thought Drake played really well. The play that he made at the end of the game was absurd. And we all saw it, and it looked like something Josh Allen would do. And look, it looks like they got the guy at quarterback. We'll see how it goes. You just wonder if they have anything else.
Yeah, I thought Van Pelt tanked that game with the offensive line decision and Mayo. That's the very reason why they couldn't do anything offensively to start that game. So that's on the coaching staff. A few things here before we get to a big trade that was just made in the NFL and Greg's final thoughts on the Titans game. Check out Greg and Mike Giardi, $50 for the year at Boston Sports Journal. They do a great job covering the Patriots. Of course, John Corrales, our friend, is busy covering the Boston Celtics and Haggerty with the Bruins. So check them out. $50 for the year. Also download the Prize Picks app today. Use code CLNS, $50 instantly when you play $5, and take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. All right. A big trade was made in the NFL just a few moments ago. Greg, Marshawn Lattimore, corner from New Orleans, goes to Washington for a third-round pick, at least a third-round pick. Ian Rappaport said it was a third-round pick and more. Others are just saying a third-round pick. If you were the Patriots, because I know a lot of Patriots fans will say, why not go get – would you have been in on that? You have 2 second-rounders with the Judon trade. Would you have been in on Marshawn Lattimore?
No, not a cornerback. They have 3 cornerbacks. They can go get more. I think the more pertinent question is, would you have dealt Jonathan Jones? Because there were rumors about people calling about Jonathan Jones, and I think now we know the Commanders are one of those teams. Would you have done Jonathan Jones for a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick? I definitely would have done it for a third, fourth. Probably not, and that's probably why the Patriots weren't in on this deal.
All right, 3 up, 3 down. Who'd you like? Who did you not like?
Yeah, let's just go through it. On defense, guys I liked. The edge guys, I liked all of them. Keon White was awesome. 4 total quarterback pressures, 3.5 stuffed runs. Dietrich Wise was good, even though he had a really bad run past the quarterback on the first drive. That did not help things. Anthony Jennings was really good. Jelani Tavai was really good. I liked Marcus Jones, and that's it for the defense. Offense, Drake Maye, Ramondre Stevenson, even though he didn't have much production, his 2 touchdowns, again, that goal line touchdown, it was almost when it whiffed again. And it was a circumstance where I'm like, I don't know how he got in. So, and plus his catch at the end of the game. Hunter Henry continues probably be the best player as far as performance on offense this season. And on the offensive line, Micah Wenu, DeMontre Jacobs, and Ben Brown all did a good job. Oh, Micah Wenu at right guard and DeMontre Jacobs at right tackle. That's interesting. Yeah.
By the way, the trade for Lattimore was a Washington 3rd, a Washington 4th, a Washington 6th, and Washington got Lattimore in a 5th. So a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th for Lattimore in a 5th. So Washington gave up a lot. So if you're a Patriots fan who wants Marshawn Lattimore, you got to ask yourself the question, would you have traded a 3rd, a 4th, and a 6th for him? I would not have done that. All right, he's Greg. I'm Nick. Later in the week, we'll have our reaction, see if the Patriots do anything on this trade deadline day. We got about 3 more hours left before the end of that deadline. And also, we'll preview the Chicago Bears. Caleb Williams, the first pick in the draft versus the 3rd pick in the draft coming up on Sunday. Everybody be well until then.